Video games are a unique medium for entertainment. They're often immersive and beautiful to look at like a good movie, but also capable of being more complex and having the depth of a book. And then, you the player get to take the reins and take on the adventure yourself. The answer to the question, are video games art, is a resounding yes, of course. And some games stay with you long after you complete them, taking hold of your mind after the credits have rolled. Games that really make you think and ruminate about what you just experienced. Maybe read up online about others' experiences with the game, and take part in discussions about what you each felt about the game's story, the soundtrack, art style, or the characters. This video is a list of games that have done that very thing for me, and why, years later, they've continued to stick with me so strongly. And if you want, go ahead and leave your list of games in the comments section. Dark Souls is more than just a game to me. It's an experience. A world that consumed me for a very long time, and one that I still revisit multiple times a year. Between the Xbox 360 version and the remaster on PC, I've created probably 20 different characters, with most of them progressing through at least a few New Game Plus completions. This game is special to me. There's a reason so many people say Dark Souls cured their depression, or that the game is almost a religious experience in a way. And they're absolutely right. It's not just a rite of passage to say you've beat the game. If you pay at least a little bit of attention to its artistic elements, there's a lot to derive from what Dark Souls tells you through its game design. First is the world. Dark Souls opens with a cinematic, showcasing the old world and the ones who ruled it, setting up the fall of this dark and dreary, yet beautiful place called Lordran. Lords, gods, knights, dragons, and war. At face value, it sounds like a typical fantasy setting, but as many who have played the game know, it's anything but that. The more time you spend in the world, the more you see its depth. The NPC characters and their dialogue immediately sucked me into Lordran. Oscar, Andre, and Solaire of Astora, Siegmeyer of Katarina, Knight Lautrec of Karim, Petrus of Thorland. If you spend time listening to their dialogue, all of the characters have such a rich backstory and history, with their dialogue giving clues and hints about what their home locations might resemble. For example, Astora resembles an advanced culture and society, recognized for its nobility, and I think the characters perfectly exemplify that. Katarina is a land known for their festivity, drinks, and jovial groups of people. The personalities of these characters always represents their culture, thus giving them more depth and a place in the world. This is one of the many things that immediately made me feel connected to them and to the game's overall world.
Goodbye then. Be safe, friend. Don't you dare go hollow. Be safe, friend. Don't you dare go hollow.
Don't you dare go hollow. One of the most quoted lines of dialogue from the game. Going hollow is giving up and giving in to the harsh world around you. Several characters along your journey end up meeting this fate, and each time, it's heartbreaking. This only continued to make me want to endure to the end, persevere through the challenges to finish my journey. There are many different lessons one can learn while playing Dark Souls. Patience is a virtue, don't worry about what you have to lose to progress, and learning to keep a cool head while under immense pressure, among other things. But this one right here is the one that stuck with me the hardest. No matter how big, terrifying, and challenging something appears to be at first, it can be overcome. Don't you dare give up or give in. Don't you dare go hollow. Perseverance, hard work, and patience will always be rewarded.
Yes! No! Yes! Oh! Oh! Oh!
The audio design and soundtrack of Dark Souls adds another layer of depth to the world. Ambient music is basically non-existent. There's a total of 4 areas in the game where music plays outside of boss battles. Firelink Shrine, the World Hub, the Daughters of Chaos bonfire found behind a hidden wall after defeating Quelaag, Guinevere's Bedchamber in Anor Londo, and Ash Lake, another hidden mysterious location. Now each one of these locations are vitally important to the game, and the music played in each location evokes a very specific tone. Harrowing and mysterious, glorious and inspiring, soothing and inviting. With the rest of the world lacking music throughout exploration, it creates a very real sense of loneliness and isolation, with only the sounds of your footsteps and chainmail armor to comfort your ears. But pay enough attention, and maybe a blacksmith hammer can be heard nearby, a crystal lizard hiding around the corner, or the cackle of some horror in the distance. It doesn't matter which boss fight, all of the soundtracks go so hard, and some, like Ornstein and Smoes, will forever be imprinted in my mind. But that'll happen after fighting these two for days on end before beating them. There's a lot of highs and lows throughout Dark Souls, and for the sake of brevity, I'll just say that each area does a good job at standing out. You can just name a place, and I'll be like, yep, I remember that place. Sen's Fortress, Blighttown, New Londo Ruins, Darkroot Garden. I've got distinctive memories and experiences of each location, and not a lot of games are good at doing that. So many games tend to make each area feel the same, or areas just sort of blend together into one homogeneous zone, but not Dark Souls. And lastly, I'll touch on the game's ending. Fighting and defeating Lord Gwyn isn't triumphant or victorious, but a bit sad and somber, linking the fire to enact the cycle again, or becoming the Dark Lord to bring to pass an age of darkness. The first time I beat the game, I linked the fire, as many do, and I just remember staring at the end credits for 10 minutes, listening to the haunting soundtrack, just trying to soak in everything I experienced in those 85 hours. It was an unforgettable moment in gaming history for me, and one I still try to relive years later, in subsequent playthroughs, or watching blind Let's Plays. Dark Souls is truly one of the greatest video games of all time. Firewatch is a short game, around 4 or 5 hours long, but each hour of the game kept me on the edge of my seat for my very first playthrough in 2016. I replayed the game years later after remembering how much I enjoyed it the first time, and it hit even harder the second time around. From moments of heartbreak, to banter between characters, to tense encounters, and of course, the still and quiet times that give you time to ponder and try to get inside the mind of the main character, Henry. It's a game with incredible ambience and gorgeous environments that is helped by the fantastic art direction. The dialogue between Henry and Delilah is some of the best written conversations I've seen in not just video games, but any media. The conversations are so simple, but so layered and real.
So, no ideas, huh?
Delilah's a nice name.
No, you big dummy.
I was kidding.
No, you were not. You're sweet, but we can't call it the Delilah Fire.
Okay, what then?
How about my middle name, June?
The June Fire. Even though it's July.
I like it.
The story has you take a job as a fire lookout in Shoshone National Forest, Wyoming, in the year 1989. You rely on your paper map, compass, and basic supplies to navigate the forest. And of course, a radio to communicate with your boss, Delilah, who helps initially as a guide, but pretty quickly things evolve into something more. When speaking over radio, you're given several dialogue options that give you a lot of control of the conversation. And when you replay the game, you can really see how different each conversation can play out, depending on the option. This is Firewatch's biggest strength, the dialogue. The voice actors do an amazing job of conveying the strong and unique personalities of Henry and Delilah. The witty sarcasm, the playful banter, or the more serious and tense conversations. They all lend to feeling a real connection to characters that you can't even see. And despite its bright visual design, the game deals with some pretty heavy and difficult adult themes and topics. Death, divorce, love, isolation. The flow of each conversation is done so naturally that it's able to tackle each topic in a genuine way.
Henry, that call was work. I was just talking to... Actually, it's not really your business. Why are you freaking out?
I'm not freaking out.
Good. I'm gonna go quiet for a little bit. Call me if it's important.
Firewatch also does a surprisingly good job at creating suspense and mystery in its plot. Just when I thought I'd figured out the plot, there's another twist that had me second guessing myself, trying to figure out the mystery going on behind the scenes. Now, despite the game receiving high praise, the ending has always been a topic for some criticism. Without spoiling anything, some say that the game is underwhelming or disappointing. For me, I can say that it definitely left me wanting more, but I don't think it was a bad ending. The ending really portrayed the overarching themes of the game. Melancholic is the best way I can describe it, and it's one of the biggest reasons the game has stuck with me all these years later. I do highly recommend anyone to play through this game, because the feelings it evokes is entirely unique. Spec Ops: The Line, at a glance, looks like just another military shooter released during the era of many military shooters. The gameplay feels very familiar to third-person shooter fans. Cover mechanics, ammo pickups, a typical squad of soldiers, not really breaking new ground in the genre there. But Spec Ops: The Line is anything but a cookie-cutter military story. It's a game that presents awful moral choices for the player, where there's usually no good outcome, no matter what you do. Witnessing the psychological downfall of the main character Walker after partaking in some of the most horrifying war crimes, particularly in Chapter 8 with the white phosphorus scene. The game doesn't shy away from depicting the psychological trauma of warfare.
What it is, he wouldn't have a choice. He turned us into fucking killers. That's enough, Sergeant. No.
We need to keep moving.
What?
So what initially starts off as a typical military shooter begins to feel more like a horror game in the last few chapters. Walker's hallucinations becoming more pronounced and intense leading up to the finale. The game was not at all what I expected going into it. I wasn't aware at the time of the direction the developers would be taking the story, and what I was left with was a very thought-provoking and dark look into the realities of war. What might happen to a person that can justify doing terrible things when under the notion that they're the hero, or they're the main character, so to speak? You brought this on yourself. Do you feel like a hero yet? No one can help you now. You can't go home. The game explicitly hammers home some pretty dark commentary about your actions, and by the end of my first playthrough, I had a lot to think about. Not only was the story full of unexpected good twists, but thinking about the morality of my actions from the beginning of the game, right up to the ending, was at the very least something that consumed my mind for a week or so after completion. And upon a second playthrough recently, it's crazy to see how much more I was able to catch throughout each chapter, when I now know the full context. It's impressive how carefully crafted and well thought out the story setup is, in order to then deliver on the rest of the game's themes.
You were never meant to come here.
We have our orders. Leave the city, radio command from outside the storm wall. They send in the cavalry, we go home.
Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 are some of the greatest games ever made, and while both games have stuck with me over the years, it's the first game that really made the biggest impact on me. It's a pure western, in every sense of the word. Sprawling landscapes, a badass protagonist, sheriffs, outlaws, gangs, revenge. Red Dead Redemption has all the tropes, but it manages to handle the tropes in a more realistic way than that of the mid-1950s television shows. Set in 1911, former outlaw and gang member John Marston begins his hero's journey by hunting down his former gang members. See, the FBI kidnapped his wife and son, and this is the only way he can redeem himself, save his family, and have his past crimes erased. Throughout the journey in Texas and parts of Mexico, the cast of characters you meet along the way have always stood out to me. Bonnie McFarlane, Nigel West Dickens, Irish, Landon Ricketts. Everyone you meet are such distinctive and unique characters, and there's a lesson to be learned from all of them, even the crazy ones.
Come on, partner.
Okay, I was just fooling. Partner, the thought of that treasure does funny things to me.
But my favorite character to come across in the game is the Strange Man. Still, to this day, nobody really knows who he is or what he is. Satan, Jesus, God, death, a ghost of Christmas future. It's a mystery. He knows where John will be buried, he seems to know John's heart and mind, and he speaks in ambiguous riddles. He leaves you guessing. His dialogue, as well as many other characters in the game, is the type of dialogue that will always stay with you.
You know, I admire you, John. I hope my boy turns out just like you.
For your sake, I hope he don't.
But why are you faithful to your wife if you pay a man to sleep with whores?
I'll let the appropriate authorities judge my morality, friend.
Yes, you will. And they shall.
Exploring the world in Red Dead is one of the game's biggest strengths. The layout of the map and locations in the world. The fact that there isn't a single loading screen if you trekked from one end to the other and entered and exited several buildings along the way is a real achievement for Rockstar's game design skill and optimization. And doing this in 2010 on the Xbox 360 and PS3 is all the more impressive when some games still can't figure out the no loading screen issue in 2024. When you're out exploring, the ambience of the quiet and dangerous Western civilization is almost haunting. The sounds of John Marston's footsteps, the creak of a saloon door, the gunshots in the distance, it's all very hypnotic. Pair the ambience with one of the greatest soundtracks in video game history, and the audio design is nothing short of epic exhilaration. Now, I'm going to spoil the ending of Red Dead Redemption 1, so be warned here, but the ending of this game might be the only time I've truly gotten choked up over a character's death. John making it all this way, surviving his time in Dutch's gang, hunting down his past gang members, being reunited with his family, trying to move on and become an honest, hardworking man, only for the government to betray him and put him down like a sick dog on his own property. I don't think I could properly describe my emotions in this moment during my first playthrough, but it was almost instantly the first 5 stages of grief. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Nah, not acceptance. I felt the need for revenge, and with the epilogue, that would become a reality. A few years later, Jack, John's son, would follow in his father's footsteps and become a bit of an outlaw himself, tracking down Edgar Ross after his retirement, and finally getting his revenge on the old bastard. Could there be a better ending? And could there be a better character than John Marston? Don't get me wrong, Arthur Morgan is fantastic, but John Marston from the first game is still my personal favorite in the series. A true badass, a living legend, that got caught up in the wrong crowd and couldn't make it out alive in the end, despite his very best efforts. One of the most unforgettable characters, and one of the most unforgettable games ever created.
And how this man, this brave man, hunts the man who killed his father.
The Bioshock series is one of my absolute favorite series in gaming. From excellently crafted worlds, unique and diverse gameplay toolkits, and complex and intelligent storytelling. All of the Bioshock games have left me in amazement after the credits rolled. But for this video, I want to focus on just the first game. The biggest strength the Bioshock games have for me is the visual storytelling and symbolism. The game opens with a plane crash and a descent 20,000 leagues under the sea, to the reveal of Rapture. One of the most iconic and memorable reveals in gaming history, Rapture continued to shock and surprise me further the more I explored it. The city, dreamt up and created by Andrew Ryan, is a utopia built on the idea of complete freedom, a world free from religious morality or government restrictions. And at first, things seemed to be going well. But it didn't take too long for this city to fall in a civil war between political activists like Atlas and his followers and the government of Andrew Ryan. You start the game shortly after this civil war. New Year's Day 1959. Rapture was turned upside down. Chaos ensuing amongst every district, from high society clubs and theaters to farmers markets and fishing ports. Each area does a great job at showing the kind of place Rapture was before the fall, and then what it became in the aftermath. Warnings written out in blood, corpses strung up in grotesque ways, advertisements for different professions that lead to sinister discoveries. Bioshock visually presents the hellscape that Rapture has become so perfectly. Even without the audio diaries, or Atlas chirping in your ear, you'd be able to get a good idea of what happened in this world before you arrived. This, again, is Bioshock's biggest strength. The voice acting and dialogue is another area where Bioshock excels. Each character performance delivers in all the right ways. I can't think of a single instance where I cringed or rolled my eyes at any of the dialogue. It all fits right in with the universe and the context of the story. And speaking of the story, it's a masterpiece. The moment-to-moment discovery and putting the pieces together yourself, the constant tension between Atlas and Andrew Ryan's different philosophies, the would you kindly reveal? It's truly a once-in-a-lifetime storytelling experience. This is the type of stuff that deserves to be studied in college English classes. The symbolism alone could fill an entire textbook. The next biggest strength is the gameplay itself. It's entirely unique. Adam and Eve abilities, weapon upgrades, the strategies to taking down big daddies. Nothing else has even come close to the uniqueness and cleverness in the FPS genre. Even Bioshock Infinite didn't live up to the intelligent design of the gameplay in the first. Bioshock is a franchise that to me will always be a perfect example to use in regards to the "are video games art?" question. This game oozes artistic creativity at every turn, and its themes, writings, and art style have always stuck with me, and I can't get enough of it. It's one of the few games I will replay every year because there's something new to discover or experiment with each playthrough.
A man chooses, a slave obeys.
Now for the first multiplayer game on the list, Sea of Thieves. There's always a joke in gaming discourse about how review sites like IGN say things like, "This game makes you feel like Batman," or "feel like Spider-Man." But in this case, Sea of Thieves really does make you feel like a pirate. Gold is all you're thinking about. We gotta do this Fort of Fortune to get a lot of gold. We gotta optimize our time to get the max amount of gold in the shortest time possible. Oh, a grade 5 Reaper on the map? I bet if we go kill him, we'll make a lot of gold. Is there anything more pirate than that? All of this is helped by the fact that you're doing it with friends. You and the boys, squatting up, sailing the high seas, destroying everything in your path, playing music, cooking steaks, bucketing toxic douchebags. It's glorious. The PvP in this game is really something special in my opinion. Sometimes you'll wreck certain ships, and other times you're the crew that's gonna get wrecked. But oftentimes, the battles are a close matchup, and it's almost an endurance fight to see who can out-battle, out-maneuver, and out-repair the other crew. And it's in those intense battles that Sea of Thieves' magic really shines. The cheers and excitement when you finally defeat a crew after a long fight is such an epic moment. And the losses in those moments, well, we just don't talk about the losses.
You're a pussy.
You know,
One-on-one, bitch. Get off your boat. One-on-one.
I've had a lot of fun with friends in different games over the years, but Sea of Thieves just hits different. I'll never forget the awesome memories I've made in all those late night gaming sessions just to get a little bit more gold. Sea of Thieves also has one of the most beautiful art styles. Utilizing a somewhat cartoony, stylized aesthetic, the way Rare has used the Unreal Engine to make this game really pop is incredibly well done. The lighting, the skybox, the water, dude, look at that water. The sound design and music really put a nice bow on it all and solidify the game as a flawed yet unforgettable multiplayer experience. The Witcher 3 is one of the few games that can truly be called a masterpiece. From the characters to the quest design to the story and the voice acting, The Witcher 3 rarely misses a beat. When I first played the game, I had just finished playing Dark Souls 3, so getting used to the combat did take a bit of time, because nothing beats third-person action combat in the Souls games. But when I finally did get a handle on the gameplay of The Witcher 3, I came to love it too. So first I want to talk about the story and the Witcher universe. Witcher 3 was my first introduction to the world, and after spending over 100 hours in the game my first time through, it prompted me to immediately go buy the books. The Witcher universe is familiar if you've played a lot of fantasy games or read numerous fairy tales, but there's something different about it that makes it stand on its own, and that's likely due to the fact that CD Projekt Red are based in Poland, and the books were written by Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski. The specific influence of Polish, Slavic, and Germanic mythology is something that I hadn't quite seen before, and now, because of The Witcher 3, I'm a huge fan. CD Projekt Red did the books justice by sticking as close to the source material as possible, while still creating their own separate stories for the games, and that's something to be commended. It's why the characters are all so well written, why the quests that you play through as Geralt feel like the ones written in the books, and that's sort of the main point I'm getting at. The Witcher 3 feels like you're playing through an incredibly well-written book, while also having a lot of choice in which direction certain stories will go. The famous Triss or Yennefer choice, helping or evicting Sarah, choosing whether or not to kill the cursed botchling, or even choosing who will rule the North, and of course the many decisions that involve Ciri. There's an insane amount of choices to make throughout the game regarding so many different characters that will affect all different areas of the game. And the best part about these choices is you get to return to those specific areas or have specific conversations that note these choices you've made along the way. The Witcher 3 absolutely took over my life for a short time, becoming obsessed with the lore, the different outcomes, the exploration to uncover more tidbits of world building, or find unique weapons and armor. There's something about this game that made me want to never put it down. And don't even get me started on the DLC. The Witcher 3 DLCs are arguably the best pieces of DLC content in any game, ever. Blood and Wine is content-filled and large enough to be considered its own standalone game. And despite the amount of time it takes to play through this game and its 2 amazing DLCs, it's something I've done 3 times now, with my most recent playthrough totaling to almost 200 hours. So if we want to talk about the greatest RPGs of all time, there's no question that Witcher 3 should be in the discussion. It's a game that delivers on almost everything I could ever ask for in a story-driven RPG experience.
I'm a witcher. Heard you wondering about my swords. Well, one's for monsters, the other for humans. Only got one prick, though, in case you're wondering about that too.
Don't touch him.
Destiny 1 is a game that is very flawed, and some might make the argument that it was the beginning of the end for Bungie as a company, after previously being heralded as one of the greatest developers of all time. But despite its many problems, Destiny 1 and the memories I made during its 3-year lifespan will never be forgotten. In a sort of strange way, it made me who I am today, and I've made some incredible lifelong friends because of this game, so I absolutely had to mention it in this video. First, I want to talk about the art direction and immersion that Destiny 1 provided. Bungie's art team were truly at their peak when creating the environments. Each location looks like it came straight out of a painting, like the concept art leaped off the page and onto your screen, with ambience, lighting, and atmospheric effects that feel so engrossing. Strike and raid environments that feel like true labyrinths and hold so much mystery in their visual storytelling. The game is breathtaking visually, even 10 years later. The audio design is also incredible. From the enemies, to the guns, to the abilities, they're all so perfectly well mixed. The soundtrack is a masterpiece, and has easily become my all-time favorite soundtrack in gaming. Its melodic tracks still give me chills to this day. Marty O'Donnell is a true master of his craft. The gameplay of Destiny is something almost everyone universally acknowledges, whether they like the game or not, is incredibly fluid and amazing to play. It just feels good to shoot a hand cannon, leap through the air, or slam the ground as a striker titan. The story of Destiny has never been great, but the lore has. Destiny's visual storytelling, world building, and lore is some of the greatest I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. It's second only to Dark Souls and Bloodborne lore for me. The amount of time I've spent diving into lore cards, watching lore videos, and crafting my own theories is probably close to the amount of time I've actually spent playing the game. But without question, the thing about Destiny that sticks with me the most is the memories I've made playing this game. I never thought when I started this journey back in 2014 that I'd create my character and then take that character with me through 3,000 hours worth of several campaigns, nightfalls, raids, crucible matches, and quests. And a lot of that is thanks to my clan. For the first 6 months of playing, I was mainly doing LFG and playing with a few IRL friends, but shortly before The Taken King released in 2015, I made friends with someone who I'd come to know, not well at the time, but eventually, and I would join their clan shortly after meeting them. The members of this clan would become lifelong friends as we spent thousands of hours together raiding, PvPing, and just shooting the breeze. I'll never forget the countless raid nights, the countless trials cards, and of course, the endless laughs while hanging out in the tower. Destiny 1 came at a perfect time in my life, and again, despite its flaws, I will stand by that it is a great game, especially with each subsequent expansion release. It just nailed so much of the fundamentals that are needed to make a great co-op looter shooter experience, and the game excelled in areas still yet surpassed by its successor, Destiny 2. Assassin's Creed 2 wasn't my first introduction to the series, but it's the game I will always revere as the best. The Ezio trilogy as a whole really, but I have to give it to AC2 for doing what it was able to do on its own. So what did it do? Assassin's Creed 2 gave us the greatest protagonist in the franchise, Ezio Auditore da Firenze. Ezio is a character that really exemplifies a good hero. He's flawed, makes mistakes, but learns from them, grows as a person and a man. Not just across the trilogy, but even just within AC2. We see him as a baby, as a young man at 17, and throughout several different years of his life, with him being 41 years old by the ending of AC2. That is truly wild to think about, but his character arc from the beginning of the game to the end really shows his growth and knowledge that he's gained over the years. Ubisoft's writers were on point with Ezio's writing.
We are free to follow our own path. There are those who will take that freedom from us. Too many of you gladly give it. But it is our ability to choose whatever you think is true that makes us human.
His hero's journey really begins when his father and his brother are wrongfully imprisoned and then executed publicly, sending him down the path of becoming an assassin. And it's all thanks to his uncle Mario for taking initiative and beginning his training. We get to see so many different moments of Ezio's life that make him the man he becomes by the end of the game, even in the gameplay and cutscenes. Ezio starts off a bit sloppy and careless in his executions of his enemies, but by the end, he's a master of his craft. Seeing Ezio's character progression is my favorite part of the game, but AC2 is more than just Ezio. It's Italy. The recreation of Italy and its iconic locations set in the 15th century is done so incredibly well that when I first played the game, I fell in love with Italy, its history, its architecture, and its language. It made me want to visit and see the beauty for myself. The real-world characters you meet in the game, like Lorenzo da Medici, Caterina Sforza, and of course, Leonardo da Vinci. Meeting these characters was so badass, and reading their codex pages let you know the real history behind them in the real world. In fact, AC2 is one of the few games that I would actually read the codex pages to learn more about the history of Italy and its customs, economy, and society. I truly owe a lot to this game for my knowledge of Italy, and that's a real testament to how well Ubisoft were able to design this world and the game systems. The gameplay of Assassin's Creed 2 is also a perfect balance between open world and action-adventure. The world isn't overly bloated or full of filler content. It's just big enough to feel big, and small enough to 100% the game in a reasonable time frame. The fighting and climbing mechanics are just complex enough to be an improvement over the first game, but not overdone with ridiculous skill trees like we find in some of the later games. The music? Holy crap, I almost forgot about the music. There's a reason Ezio's family became the main theme of the franchise after this game, and it's because it's just perfect. The other tracks, of course, are great as well, and the ambient music you hear while exploring is relaxing and calming. To me, Assassin's Creed 2 is the greatest game in the franchise. It nailed the character, the writing, the balance of the game design, everything. And it's another game I will always go back to and replay. Now before I get to the last game on the list, I want to sprinkle in a few honorable mentions. Alan Wake, a game that is obviously heavily inspired by Stephen King novels and the TV series Twin Peaks. It's such a unique and interesting psychological horror game. It's not overly scary or anything, as the game is still rated T, but the way it conveys the narrative through Alan's own writings, and finding the missing pages scattered about, using your flashlight to break down the barrier of the enemies, there's just so many cool little details about this game and how it's presented. It's a really great game. Battlefield 1, one of my favorite FPS games of all time, primarily due to the immersion and intensity of the gameplay. The large-scale warfare taking place on these epic real-world locations inside of the underused World War I setting. It's just an epic game to sit down and play if you want to get sucked into some high-action battles for a while. See my video I made dedicated on this game if you want to hear some more praise about it. It Takes Two is a game I played through with my wife when it first came out, and we had an absolute blast. Just a simple, good, fun video game. There's not much else to it. Each of the game's levels were well varied, and each level came with a new set of mechanics to learn, which led to the game staying fun and interesting the whole time. This is one I should probably revisit with my wife again soon, and this time we'll swap characters to experience the other player's side of the gameplay. Call of Duty Black Ops. Yes, a Call of Duty game is on this list, and it's my personal favorite in the franchise. The Black Ops campaign is easily the most memorable for me, filled with wild 1960s conspiracies, government corruption, excellent villains, badass squad mates, and crazy plot twists. The zombies mode, of course, needs no explanation. It kicked ass, and I spent so many hours playing it. The multiplayer gave us some of the greatest maps in COD history, and the greatest menu theme in COD history. What a time to be a COD fan. Bloodborne. Probably my next favorite From Software game after the first Dark Souls. Bloodborne hit all of the same highs as Dark Souls 1, and in some places it hits even higher. The boss fights were amazing, the areas incredible, and like The Witcher 3, the DLC goes hard, including some of the best bosses and zones in the game. If you play any From Software game, it's gotta be one of these two. But now, on to the final game of the list. Fallout New Vegas, man. Where do I even begin? So my first Fallout game was Fallout 4 in 2016, and to be honest, I thought it was just okay. There were a few things I really liked, and a lot more that I didn't. After finishing the game, I thought I'd never return to the franchise, assuming the older games were likely similar, but in 2020 a friend of mine recommended I try out Fallout New Vegas, hyping it up to me and talking about playing the game on survival mode, and long story short, he convinced me to play it. Bought it on Steam the next day for like $5, and dude, I have now completed New Vegas over 5 times, have hundreds of hours in the game, and I still get the itch to hop on and play it all the time. It's easily in my top 3 games of all time, and I just can't get enough of it. So what made me fall in love with this game? Again, where do I start? Let's just start with the intro. The camera panning through a post-nuclear Vegas in a war-torn Mojave, ending with Chandler Bing popping you right in the dome. I mean, what an intro, man. Ron Perlman then introducing the factions and setting up the story. I was already hooked. There's just something about the setup of New Vegas that just felt right. Like the Fallout universe was created just for this game to exist, and it didn't take long for me to become invested into the game after that. I was still in Good Springs, resolving a conflict between the town and a group of felons known as the Powder Gangers, and just seeing how many different player choices I had in that moment, I immediately knew. Yep, this game is going to consume my life. And after resolving that conflict, Obsidian just hands you the reins and says, okay, go play the game now. And from there, I just started exploring, dipping my toe into every nearby area, taking on quests, and trying to get involved in everything the world had to offer. Out of all of the games on this list, I can confidently say that this game is the one where I latched onto it the fastest, and really sunk my teeth into it. I would eat, sleep, New Vegas when I first started playing. So why is that? Quest design. The quest design of New Vegas is something to behold. For a game made in 18 months, the quests have a level of depth and freedom that is just awesome. There's almost always a really creative or hilarious way to go about each quest line. The characters. New Vegas NPCs and companions are really interesting. Great backstories, and even better dialogue options. The amount of information and world building jam-packed into these text boxes is truly insane. You can learn about every little thing in the world from exhausting NPC dialogue options. And if you're paying attention, you can really start to see which kind of direction you might want to start taking in the main quest in order to reach whatever you consider the ideal outcome. The gameplay. The gameplay is simple, kind of jank, but filled with charm. No, the game isn't the prettiest graphically, or the most fluid gameplay-wise, but the charm of the gameplay really does make up for some of the game's flaws. I've mentioned it in previous videos before, but the Pip-Boy being your in-game menu is one element of the game that lends to some really good immersion. having to navigate your map, weapons, food, and radio on a device strapped to your arm is so cool. And on the topic of the radio, New Vegas Radio contains some of the greatest classical, jazz, country, and rock tracks of the 1940s and 50s. If you ever need a mood booster, just turn on the New Vegas Radio soundtrack and crack open a cold one. The main quest of New Vegas, along with the many factions, is probably its greatest strength though. Choosing between Caesar's Legion, the NCR, Mr. House, and Yes Man, these are difficult decisions when you start branching out and talking to minor factions like the Boomers, the Brotherhood of Steel, and the many families of the Strip. I still go into my playthroughs unsure of who I'm going to side with because it's such a difficult decision. The DLCs are also insanely good. High quality quests, stories, characters, and writing are found inside all of them. They're honestly equally as good as the base game, except this one. Can't stand playing that one. Other than Christine though, she's cool. Fallout New Vegas is a game I never knew I was missing out on, but it's a game I will never stop playing, especially thanks to mods that I've recently gotten into. Some of the mod content is even on par with the base game. New Vegas players are some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen in any game franchise, and the modders are the same. And it's so cool to see a game still see so much love 14 years later. And that's how you know a game is a true masterpiece. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, leave your list of games that stuck with you in the comments section, or your thoughts on my list of games. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.